Test. Sound check. Alright. School management system plays an essential role in the current educational system. School authorities all over the world are engaged in a lot of day-to-day administrative and academic activities to manage and provide a better academic experience to students effectively. Assalamualaikum, welcome back to our channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Click that notification button and comment down below on what are the next videos you guys want us to make. I'm just kidding. Comment down below on how are you guys feeling today. Well, me, I feel okay. So today we are going to present on school management. What I need you to do is just sit back and enjoy the rest of the presentation, and please stay with us till the end. Thank you. Hi everyone, so before we proceed, I'm going to introduce you to my friends, classmates, colleagues, group members. I am going to introduce you to my group members. So I'm going to be the first presenter, Rahana Ashraf Faizal. Then we have Miss Hafiza, Miss Hanum Hedulia. Next, we have Mr. Muhammad Karar Ashraf. And last but not least, Mr. Muhammad Akimullah. So on this topic, we are going to cover on financial issue, administration, concession, something related to canteen and cleaners. So stay tuned. Financial management is a vital activity in any organization. It is the process of planning, organizing, controlling, and monitoring financial resources with a view to achieve organizational goals and objectives. So I'm going to present on financial issue, and I'm going to touch on the management of PTA money. So I bet all of you know what PTA stands for. It's for Parent Teacher Association. So let's jump on the 3 things that you should know about PTA money. So the first thing is PTA really needs an allocation to help the school. So by saying this is they require a quite huge amount of allocation every year, because as you already knew, most of the schools in Malaysia has been established for God knows how many decades. So let's talk about the second one, the worst condition of the school. For example, the obvious one, the facilities at school. So let me name some. The chairs, the tables, they are so old. What else? Whiteboards, blackboards, not to forget the toilet doors and many other things. So all of these things that I mentioned, it requires a lot of money. Okay, did you know that average school that has 1,000 students require more or less around 10,000 ringgit? Because this is to provide even not the best, but an adequate and comfortable facilities for the students. Hence, the 3 things that I shared just now is the main thing or the basic things of where does the PTA money go and how important the allocation is to them. It is just not for the students, it is for the school to maintain the image of the school as well. So let's move on to the next slide because I want to show you some examples. So these images are taken from the New Straits Times, and it shows 1 or maybe 2 of the worst conditions at school, and I bet that there are many schools in Malaysia that are facing the same things, problems like this. So typically the damage can be seen in classrooms, corridor, toilets, and other school compounds. So school damage can be reported to PPD, and then it goes to JPN and then KKM, but it usually takes a long period of time for the money to be approved, for the help to arrive. So the waiting game here is strong, but it is still not a guarantee that the school will get it fixed, because at the end of the day, it all depends on the budget. It depends on the financial matter. So sometimes the school has waited for months only to get a disappointment, you know. So that is why the financial issue is crucial, and allocation money for the PTA is important to help the school facilities. The school facilities, they are old, not just old but dangerous for the students, for the teachers. And not just that, PTA money also provide to make more interesting programs for the schools. And then without the money and bad financial crisis, it could impact badly on the school. So as stated in the New Straits Times, again, let's make real changes in school. How? You do know that parents need to pay for PTA fee, right? So it is true that there are many parents who are supportive. They pay. They wanted the best for their kids. But however, there are some of the parents who take these things lightly. You know, they tend to think that it is not important to take part on this matter. So how do we make good changes? We need to have a good communication and transparency. Next. So communication and transparency. Believe me, parents, they will make monetary contributions if they are informed regularly of how it benefits their children. So that is why PTA meeting is important. But it is important for the parents to attend the meeting as well. So the school needs to urge the students to urge their parents to attend the meeting. And the meeting is usually being conducted annually, right? So transparency, meanwhile, it is a call for going public with the collection of money. The school needs to inform the parent where the money goes. Probably show them the yearly plan of the school. So these are the things that is related to financial issues, you know, so that all of the issues and problems that I mentioned earlier could be fixed or maybe could be lessened. So with that, this is the end of my presentation. I'm passing this to the next presenter. With that, thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Nur Hafiza Miti Maksum, and I will continue the presentation with another issue under the financial in school, which is slash funding by the ministry. Okay, to begin with, we know that our government has allocated budget or some money for Ministry of Education to be used for schools. So, this is an infographic that I took from Belanjawan 2021, which is this year's. So, they actually allocate some money for Rancangan Makanan Tambahan, RMT, infrastructure, enforcing education, connectivity, as well as non-direct initiatives. Not only that, Surat Perkeliling Keuangan Bilangan 8 tahun 2012 has further listed some of other type of funds that our schools in Malaysia receive. So one of it is Bantuan Geran Per Kapita or PCG. So PCG is actually an amount of money which is allocated for students and are used for two things. The first one is for subjects, which is for the schools to buy materials, resources or reference books for them to use, for the students to use to learn better. The second one is for non-subjects, which means the money is used for libraries or for them to conduct programs under counselings and such. And then there are 5 other type of funds, which are Bantuan Sukan Sekolah, BSS, Bantuan Co-curriculum, or also known as funds that is used for co-curriculum activities, and then Bantuan Makanan Asrama, BMA, Bantuan Makanan Prasekolah, BMP, as well as Bantuan Bayaran Tambahan Persekolahan, BBTP. However, despite the amount of money that our government has allocated for the schools, we have heard cases like this, in which they complain that they don't have enough money to do programs, they don't provide conducive facilities for the students to learn. The real question is, where did the money go? So let's take a look at this snippet I took from the portal of Ministry of Education. So it is said that in last year, 2020, The government has allocated an amount of 64.1 billion for them. In compared to this one, 2021, the government allocate only 50.4 billion. So there's a difference about 10 billion there. That's quite huge. So could this be the reason why our schools always complains that they don't have enough money to do programs, to fix the facilities, and to provide a better education for our students? Another question that is worth to be discussed is, how can we ensure that this money allocated by our government is really received by the appropriate parties or the schools? So this is taken from Awani 2019, in which an ex-headmaster in Sabah abused the RMT allocation, in which he used his power to give the project to his wife, and the amount of money that is involved is 45,000 ringgit Malaysia. So this case happened in 2011, and he was charged under Section 23 Akta SPRM 2009. So this proves that there are cases of people who misuse or abuse their power in managing the money received by the government. So we don't know how many more cases are happening out there, and we don't want to point fingers. So we are just going to see what are other factors that contributes to money issues in school. So there's this article written by Shahril Haji Marzuki from Faculty of Education in University Malaya. So he said that these are few issues or few factors which contributes to money management issues in school. So I'm just going to highlight 4 of them. The first one is not enough allocation from the ministry. Of course, as I said earlier, even in this year, they reduced the amount of 10 billion from previous year. And then for PCG, there are cases in which some subjects get more allocation from other subjects. For instance, there are schools that gives more attention or gives more allocation to the more important subjects like maths or maybe sciences subjects in compared to arts or kemahiran hidup subject, which is unfair. And then there are also cases in which the same amount of money is given throughout the years. Okay, imagine this amount of money is given in the year 2000, and they also give the same amount of money in the year of 2021, which don't make sense. The second one is buying and ordering issue. So this is closely related to the relationship with their supplier, in which headmaster or principals don't follow the buying procedures. So actually what they have to do is they should list down what they need and give the list to the supplier, and they should agree on getting those items only instead of getting more than what they planned. So that's why it will give them trouble in managing the money later. The third one is teachers' attitudes, in which there are cases of where teachers who are responsible in stocking up materials or teaching resources they didn't fill up the form or didn't hand in the invoice, which would cause trouble to the management in doing the calculation or the accounts. And there are also cases in where teachers who were dishonest in handling fees, in which they would take the money from their students and then use it for their own purposes, which is not good. Okay. The fourth issue is lack of management skills by the principals. So we know that when each school get the money allocated by the government, the principal is the one who is responsible in handling them. So there are cases in which headmasters or principals didn't attend specific training in management, causing them to having trouble in managing the money. So that's why they face this kind of problem in which they don't have enough money to do programs or to buy resources for the school. Okay, we have talked much about financial issues in schools, so let's move to the next topic, which is administration issues that is happening in school. So I will be going to explain about KPI pressure. So some of you might wonder, what is KPI? So KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator. It evaluates the success of an organization or of a particular activity. So in school context, KPI basically means a target or a certain things that they need to reach or they need to achieve in order for them to be acknowledged. Okay, now let's look at the KPIs in schools. So we have a lot of KPIs, so different KPIs. So even each school has their own KPI. So we have KPI for primary school, for secondary school, and boarding school have their own KPIs, SBP, Sekolah Berasrama Penuh, Sekolah Berprestasi Tinggi, and also Sekolah Kluster Cemerlangan. And not only that, even the curriculum taught also have their own KPI, co-curriculum as well, and even the teachers themselves, they also have their own KPI that need to be achieved. So let's just take a look at some examples of KPI. So on your screen now is a KPI for teachers teaching maths and science. So this is taken from a school in Sampurna, Sabah. So basically, the teachers have to fill in the columns with their activities that they did or the students' performance, and these are used for the schools to see whether they achieve the KPIs that is set for them. Next, this is a KPI taken from a school in Gombak. So this is basically a curriculum KPI in which the school need to achieve this KPI set by either the PPD or the schools in order for them to be acknowledged in the PPD. So let's talk about teachers and KPI. So we know that the real job scope for teachers is to teach, to do lesson plans, to prepare teaching materials, but that's not the case nowadays. They have to teach as well as do administrative tasks as well as achieving KPIs set by the school or by the PPD. So this infographic is taken from Sina Harian in the year 2018. So the Department of Psychology and Counseling in Ministry of Education has done a survey in which 48,000 teachers are involved in this, and they found out that 4.4 teachers are stressed. I would love to highlight these 4 cases reported by the Star in the year 2018. The first case happened in Malacca, in which a baby died because of fever, and her mother, who was a language teacher, didn't get to meet the baby before she died because she was busy meeting the school's deadline. The second case happened in Selangor, in which a teacher was diagnosed depression caused by stress. She was busy teaching and doing administrative tasks, and on top of that, she was asked to teach a subject that she didn't master, which caused her a lot of stress and eventually led her to depression. The third case is which a teacher who has been teaching for 28 years stated that teaching was no longer as fulfilling as when she started before, because nowadays teachers are responsible in producing A students and busy reaching the KPIs set by the management. The fourth case happened in KL, in which a teacher who has been teaching for 30 years struggled with the expectation from parents. Is there any ways to solve this issue? Let's look back at the infographic taken from Sina Harian just now. So here, it states that the Ministry of Education provides counselors for teachers to attend counseling sessions, and they also provide programs for them to attend in which they can learn how to manage conflicts and how to manage their emotions. So my question is, do you think this actually works? Do you think that by attending counselings and by attending these programs can reduce the amount of stress faced by teachers in Malaysia? I will leave that to you. And before I end the presentation, let's look at this snippet taken from Utusan Malaysia in 2018. So Nurul Fatiha Abdullah is actually a teacher, and let's read her opinion since she experienced this in school. I personally believe that teachers should not be pressured with these KPIs so that they can focus more on their teaching and provide a more quality lesson for the students. I'm done with my part. So I'm going to pass this presentation to the next presenter.
Teaching is an honorable, essential profession for the upbringing of human development, society, and country. In an age of technology, well developed and sophisticated, the role and responsibilities of teachers are quite demanding and challenging. Qualified teachers should wisely blend the knowledge with teaching and learning methods effectively so that the concepts are well understood by the students. Most importantly, teachers need to prepare teaching methodologies in order to present effective learning, but nowadays, teachers are specifically assigned additional duties that includes adding and modifying personal information of the students, fees collection, providing textbook, updating logbooks, analyzing which student is eligible to receive financial aid, and other additional clerical duties. I am Hanum Herdilia binti Muhammad Hidir, and today we are going to look at one of the hot issues, which is clerical work for school teachers, a burden or a responsibility. Oster 2011 stated that teachers' role had changed due to globalization, advanced technology, and change of education. Apart from teaching, teachers are also burdened with clerical duties, be a facilitator, motivator, planner, advisor curriculum, or club leaders, sports, coaches, manage student data, manage student discipline, and many more. According to the Education Minister of Malaysia, in his speech, he's aware of the changes in the teaching landscape currently were very challenging and also burden some teachers. Apart from administrative tasks, teachers are also need to write a daily lesson plan, RPH, or book records, which will be examined by the principal every week. Another research done by fellow students from UiTM Terengganu, which discuss on the responses from the teachers, mentioning that they are burdened with so much clerical work, such as key in and sorting students' data in the system, and the system also were very slow. There are many other cases that describe the struggles that teachers have to face, which have caused time-consuming and tedious teaching preparation and lesson planning, as well as difficulty in applying theory to practice. Moreover, Bronte 2009 and Oster 2011 also agreed that the increased work tasks over the years affect teachers' performance. Among the tasks is related to school development and work team activities. As teachers have been given more tasks while none have been taken away, we can expect teachers to have less time available to complete each task. Furthermore, study found that other work conditions also affect teachers' working performance, including crowded classrooms, low salary and status, students' behavior and motivational problems, poor physical conditions, lack of necessary resources, low support from administrators, colleagues, and parents have a negative impact on teachers. Some of the negative impacts are high level of stress, poor morale, and a low job satisfaction. As a result, teachers' stress increased due to mentioned work conditions. Therefore, teachers can no longer provide quality teaching because the allotted time to make the necessary preparations were spent for all the clerical tasks that have been mentioned before. This has become a very significant impact on the students and their performance in class or examination. There are more findings indicate the teacher's roles and responsibilities would have an impact on the teacher's quality of working life as well as their working hours.
Breathe in 숨을 내쉬고 두려움에 맞설 때 내게 들려온 한마디 조금 더 힘을 내라고.
The work of a teacher happens before, during, and after the school bell rings. The following are some key findings that I found. Teachers work 61 hours per week on average during the school year. Teachers on average work an 11-hour and 37-minute standard school day. Teachers are at school on average of almost 9.5 hours per day. A typical teacher spends more than 2 hours more working at home in the evening. Teachers set aside another 2 hours and 40 minutes to do school-related work each weekend. A teacher's role goes beyond merely instructing the classroom. Teachers spend 3 hours and 28 minutes each day performing non-teaching related activities. A recent study finds that teachers are just as likely to have racial biases as non-teachers, suggesting that schools need to do more work to combat stereotypes and discrimination. Educators need to acknowledge that they play an ongoing role in perpetuating racial inequality in schools. Teachers' racial biases tend to influence the expectations they have for their students, the quality of their teaching, and the choices how they manage their classroom. As said by Stark, teachers' bias levels are related to students' outcomes. The more biased teachers are, the worse students' outcomes are. Teachers perceive, evaluate, and treat students differently on the basis of their race, and there's a big role for bias to play in those disparities. Teachers are more likely to act on their biases when decisions are ambiguous. Stark said, like when they write up a student for insubordination, an infraction that has no clear definition. They're also more likely to act on their biases when they are tired, he said. When discussing inequality in the classroom, it's tempting to focus on external factors such as socioeconomic status or educational tools like rubrics. It's more uncomfortable to tackle a topic like teacher bias. After all, no one wants to think they are biased, particularly not people who devote their time, money, and energy to teaching the next generation. However, even the most dedicated and well-meaning teacher holds stereotypes and beliefs that affects their students. Unfortunately, these beliefs can be as harmful as they are inevitable, at least when unexamined. In the 1960s, Harvard professor Robert Rosenthal performed an experiment to gauge how teachers' expectations affect student performance. He told elementary school teachers that a test could determine which students IQs were about to increase rapidly, randomly selected students to label with this potential growth, and tested the students' real IQs at the beginning of the year as well as the end. The results: if teachers had been led to expect greater gains in IQ, then increasingly those kids gained more IQ. This study is a basis for most of the following research of stereotypes in the classroom. The principle is the same. Whether it's gender or race, student preference or handwriting, any factor that causes a teacher to have higher expectations for some of the students and lower expectations for others is bound to create results to match. Put more generally, teachers' beliefs in their students' academic skills and potential is a vital ingredient for student success because it is linked to students' beliefs about how far they will progress in school, their attitudes towards school, and their academic achievement. When teachers underestimate their students, it affects not just that one student-teacher relationship, but the student's entire self-concept as well as more tangible measures like their grades. To address the various kinds of biases that exist in the classroom, many researchers have called for more anonymity in the grading process. In some ways, this is easier said than done. Teachers could ask the students to write their names on the back of their papers rather than at the top, or have students turn their papers in electronically with student ID numbers rather than names. However, these methods involve complete student compliance, which is difficult to achieve and may add time to grading process, which already overburdens most teachers. There are many other ways to decrease teacher bias in the classroom, from the hiring process all the way to lesson plans. Teacher reflection. On a more individual level, teachers can also reflect on and change their practices to reduce their own biases in the classroom. For example, teachers take a few minutes to reflect on the distribution of students who are selected to be representatives or who participate most in the class. Asking yourself whether the distributions are equal, and if not, why not, can be a starting place for more equality in the classroom. Secondly, assessment process. Teachers should reflect on how they approach the assessment process. Jen's Learning advises asking yourself, do you begin with strengths and interests, then use those as starting points? Or do you focus first on the deficits? Deficit-focused teachers who have low expectations for certain students or all their students are more likely to have students with low expectations for themselves. Thirdly, student culture and background. It may also be helpful to reflect on certain societal and cultural assumptions. For example, wholeheartedly believing in a meritocracy can make teachers treat students who don't succeed as if their failures are purely the result of lack of hard work and ability, rather than complicated combination of internal and external factors. In addition, being mindful of students' background can help you avoid unnecessary conflict. For instance, a student may resist looking a teacher in the eye while speaking because some cultures interpret direct eye contact as a lack of respect. On the other hand, some Eurocentric teachers might think that same lack of eye contact indicates disrespect or shyness. Not all students will have the same cultural assumptions as their teachers, and it is our responsibility not just to bridge the gap.
괜찮아 지금부터 시작해봐 앞을 달려 Running running 너와 함께라면 모든 날 속에서 끝없이 달려봐 거친 세상 속
Hi everyone, my name is Muhammad Khairul Ashraf bin Muhammad Anafi, and today I'll be talking about one of many issues faced in Malaysian schools. So the issue is the detachment of third-party services or subcontracts, in bracket, cleaners. Okay, So, who are these cleaners? Cleaners, or in America they call it as janitor, is a person who cleans and maintains buildings such as schools, hospitals, and also residential accommodation. What are their main responsibilities? To clean. Yes, people, to clean. So, in our Malaysian school context, in our society, we call these people, these cleaners, as makcik cleaners or auntie cleaners. Why we use makcik or auntie cleaners? The reason is because in most schools you can see the person who worked as these cleaners are middle-aged women. It is pretty much rare to see young men or young women to work as cleaners or janitors in school. Okay, so these multi-cleaners are actually tied with a contract by the third party and also the school management. So you can see early in the morning, the makcik is dropped in school by a van, and then the same van gonna pick them up later in the evening, or maybe some of them cycle to school, or maybe some of the makcik like maybe their family or anyone gonna drop them off to school. Okay, so these makcik cleaners suffered because of the ministry has introduced a new tender format. So this newly tender format has cost 45,000, let me repeat myself, 45,000 school cleaners to be laid off. Imagine in a school, there are actually, like, for example, 8 cleaners, and then because of this new tender format, 5 cleaners were cut off from their job. Leave the other 3 cleaners to clean and maintain the school. Okay. Wow. Okay, so this new tender format introduced like 2 cleaners for school who has 150 students and less. Imagine 2 cleaners to clean up the whole school. Okay, so because of this new tender format, the workload for the remaining makcik cleaners would be increased. And also at the same time, and because of this workload has increased, in certain schools, students have to take over the role of makcik cleaners. What do you think? Okay, so do you think this is actually ways to discipline our students, to teach our students to be good in cleaning and stuff? What do you think? Okay, let's take a look at a very well-developed country, Japan. Let's take a look at their education system. In their education system, there's no such thing as cleaners. They do not hire any third-party cleaners to clean their school compound. Who does all the cleaning? The students. Okay, so in Japan, the students do osoji, literally means cleaning. So in typical school, osoji starts after lunch and lasts for 20 minutes, after which the children are set free for recess. This happens 4 times a week if they don't clean on Wednesday or Saturday. Okay, what do you think of this practice? Do you think our education system ready to practice this kind of system? Kind of system, do you think? What do you think? Or this is just purely because of the management issue? What do you think? Is it because this new tender format, is it because of the management issue? Or is it actually to help to teach our students to be well-behaved, well-mannered, or to build up characters? What do you think? What do you think? Let us know in the comment section below, okay? Okay, now, I'll be talking about the second issue faced in Malaysian school. Canteens tender. The lack of transparency in acquisition. So we all know that in Malaysian schools, canteen is managed by a third party. So, not all, but some people uses middle person or even faked some documents just to acquire the tender of the canteen. Is this ethical? Is this ethical? Is this positive enough? Is this something that we should practice? Okay, because of this unethical conduct, who received the repercussions? Obviously the children, the student. Why? So because of this unethical behavior, unethical misconduct, so the person who managed the school canteen, they have the audacity, they have the right whether to increase or whether to decrease the price of this of the meals in the canteen. So when the price of the food spiking up, it causes some students who can't afford to buy food because they are in the B40 category. Some schools are in the B40 category. Let's face that, people. Acknowledge that, people. There are many students who are in the B40 category. So when these irresponsible people chooses their greediness over other people, over these poor students, then these students going to probably they choose to starve rather than to buy meals that are expensive. Okay, so the ministry, school teachers have been preaching and talking about the importance of breakfast and such, but if students couldn't afford to buy a meal, then how can they practice whatever it is preached by their teachers? So when students couldn't afford it, what are the effects towards students' health, towards students' their studies? Don't you think that this would cause a lot, especially towards the students? So we can observe these unethical misconducts by the adults, but resulted negatively in our children's welfare. Who are responsible for this action? School? The third party? The ministry? Or is it the student's fault? So what are your opinion and suggestion for this? This is a very serious issue because of this unethical behavior, because of this irresponsible misconduct. The repercussions are on our children. So that's why they're saying think before you act. Are these people actually think before they act? What do you think? Let us know in the comment section below or in our discussion later. Thank you so much for listening to me. I am Muhammad Khairul Arsha bin Muhammad Hanafi. Bye-bye.
How was the video? I hope you find the food in the video to be very delectable because our discussions will revolve around the topic of food. I am Muhammad bin Muhammad Razi and I will be talking on two aspects. The first one will be in regards to the food that we can find in our school's canteen and the problem we have with it, and also I'm going to present some comparisons in regards to how schools overseas actually handles or manages their food and their lunches. Here are some examples of food that we can find in our school's canteen. Does it bring back any memories? So what is the problem really? The problem here is the selling of the food does not really adhere to the guidelines which is established by ministry or by the government itself, like the Ministry of Health, for example.
Ministry of Health have actually provided a guideline in regards to implementation of healthy eating in schools. But seriously, do people adhere to the guideline which is set?
Have a look at the list of prohibited items to be sold at school's canteen. Can you find any violation? I do believe so, that you can find violations in regards to number 2 and number 4. Especially number 4, because most of the school canteen nowadays actually sells drinks which uses cordial, and cordial uses artificial coloring and also artificial flavoring, which is a direct violation of the guideline itself. Next, we have a list of food and beverages which is not encouraged to be sold at the school canteen. Despite the reason being justified, all these items are still on sale. This is because the keyword here are these items are not encouraged, but they are not prohibited from selling them. Thus, this is actually serves as a loophole that is constantly manipulated by. This is why further emphasis on good eating habit and stricter enforcement on adhering to the guideline should be administered. Moving on, let's first list out some of the most common food we can find in a school canteen. We have fried noodles, we have fried rice, nasi lemak, sandwich, roti canai, fried rice, and also donuts, and many more. So what is the problem really? The problem lies in their glycemic index. And how does actually the glycemic index of these foods become a problem to the students? First, let's get to know what is glycemic index. Glycemic index is a ranking of carbohydrates from a scale of 0 to 100 according to the extent which they raise the blood sugar levels after eating. The high level would be 70 or more, moderate level would be around 55 to 69, and low glycemic index would be from 55 or less.
Right, as you can see, common food in school canteen. Okay, most of the common food that we can find in school canteen actually have medium to high glycemic index, and this is very alarming.
Basically, this is how glycemic index of food affects the students. When a student consumes food with high glycemic index, his or her blood sugar level will increase rapidly, which means the person will feel energized very quickly after eating. At the same time, he or she will also experience energy depletion within a very short amount of time because the sugar or the energy is already used up. This explains why students have less focus and is exhausted or drained not too long after recess. On the contrary, food with lower glycemic index will provide energy at a prolonged amount of time, so students would not feel exhausted or drained very quickly. By reviewing the menu and the items offered at a school's canteen, we can actually improve students' learning capability and optimizing their potential. Now, take a look at all these examples of school lunches from various countries around the world. Do you find them to be mouth-watering? Do you think you would like it if your school's canteen food is like any of these? One of the way overseas schools actually manages their food or school lunches is through the school meal service program. So school meal service program is provided for the students either at a free of charge, at a reduced price, or at a full price, or as an optional. So they will have dietitians and also nutritionists on board to actually plan and come up with a menu, in which the menu is actually standardized to meet the nutritional standards, and also to make up a meal which is respectively in each country, which means it is very tailor-made to suit the palate and also the food culture of that country respectively. Besides that, there is also employment of nutrition teacher to help with the planning of the menu and also to educate the students on nutrition education. In school meal service program, the meals can either be prepared and served by the school themselves or by commissioning it to the food service specialized firms. Sometimes the school meal service program also involves government agencies as a provider or as a funder to the school meal service program can vary from one country to another. For example, the US have school breakfast program and also national school lunch program. While in South Korea, aside from the school meal service program, they also establishes school meal act. While for Japan, aside from employing nutrition teachers like South Korea, Japan actually offers 3 types of meal for their. The success of such meal program is not only limited to the students' health themselves, but also to the attendance and also the students' academic performance. With that being said, I do think that consideration towards establishing our own meal programs should also be given to produce students and also future generations that is not only educated but also much healthier as a whole. To conclude, issues highlighted are not entirely new, but the constant presence of it in our education system made it relevant up until today, and that fact alone is very alarming. Fast action should be taken as an act to countermeasure and eliminate such issues one and for all.